Hey, good morning. I'm Ferrikster, here to bring you some more Pokemon Go Battle League battles. These battles are played in the Great League. I pushed my way to Veteran last night, and I have not slept at all. I don't know. I took a nap yesterday, and it probably ran kind of long. I woke up at like 9, and then I just did some stuff and couldn't go back to sleep. So I did some battles and did some other things to distract myself, and never went to sleep. It's not that I like making content in the morning when the sun is trying to peek through my Venetian blinds and hit me in the face. It's just, well, I'm probably not gonna be able to make it later today after work because I'll be unconscious. So yeah, here we go. I'm using the same team that I used in my last video because it's a great team, and I had a fantastic run with it last night slash yesterday. Just last night mostly. Iced coffee. So, my opponent opened Jellicent, swapped into Jellicent. Gallade ended up against Jellicent and barely survived. My opponent sends in Scrafty, and that's fine because, like, Escavalier is going to beat Scrafty. Escavalier's counters don't get stab, but, I'm hitting for super effective, and Scrafty's not. I'm just taking neutral damage from that. I didn't throw my Mega Horn right away because I kind of figured that my opponent was going to swap out at some point. And they swapped into Alola Ninetales, which can't really hurt Escavalier that much. And I'm going to switch into Swampert and catch this Weather Ball Ice. Oh, man. This video is going to be so quality. I can feel it. So yeah, I'm going to throw this Hydro Cannon against this Alola Ninetales, and yeah, it's going to go down, and Scrafty's going to come out. I'm going to throw another Hydro Cannon. I only really need to throw one. Escavalier has a Drill Run stored, but not enough for a Mega Horn, and I know Scrafty's going to end with a bunch of energy, but if I can get to the Hydro Cannon, a thing that Swampert is damn good at doing, then I can take out that Scrafty and can manage to take that game. GG. Okay, let's try to actually commentate this next one. All right. All right, next up against RKO Scott. Gallade into Dragalge. So, I mean, Dragalge would take super effective damage from Confusion, so it makes sense that he would get out right away. Even though Dragon Tail is a 3-turn move and Confusion's 4, the damage from a move registers on the turn before the turn ends. So the Confusion went through on Dragalge, even though he swapped out to try to avoid it. He still took that damage. And getting that one Confusion honestly helps a lot because when he brings in Jellicent, if I have a 1 Confusion lead, the Jellicent matchup is a lot easier for Gallade. Gonna shield here, and I shield the Shadow Ball, which feels a lot better than shielding another Bubble Beam. Ooh, my alarm, it's time to wake up. And my opponent brings out Empoleon. So, I'm just going to throw the Leaf Blade, hit Empoleon for neutral, and then switch out so that I can retain that and, manage to get to another Leaf Blade at some other time. I send out my Escavalier, can tank that Hydro Cannon, no problem, and my opponent switches into Dragalge to catch the Drill Run, which is, I mean, fine for me, I guess. I take so little damage from these Dragon Tails, I'm actually able to get to a second Drill Run and manage to take Dragalge out. And he goes down with a decent chunk of energy. Empoleon comes back out, eats 2 counters before taking me out, and now I can just send Gallade in. My opponent decides to try to farm me the whole way down, which makes sense. It would give him the best chance against the thing in the back. He doesn't know what that is. But I managed to get to my Leaf Blade, and I'm able to take Empoleon down. Swampert doesn't even have to come off the bench. GG. So, next up against Don't Let Me 30? Alola Ninetales opening. So, this is just a Powder Snow A-Tail, so this isn't really terrible for Gallade. I like to build up past the Leaf Blade before throwing it. I basically never throw the close combat. A lot of times they will CMP tie you when you throw the move and try to get a Weather Ball Ice in. So if I lowered my defense, I would have been forced to shield that, whereas if I just threw the Leaf Blade, I can at least eat the move. It's unbelievably rare for Alolan Ninetales to actually throw the Dazzling Gleam right off the bat. So I switched into a Escavalier to try to catch a Weather Ball Ice, but that didn't happen, and my opponent swaps in Jellicent, which is not great for a Escavalier. Pretty bad, I guess, for a Scav. My opponent goes straight Shadow Ball, so that's fine with me. It doesn't put a Escavalier into farm down range yet. I mean, they could farm me down, but they would have to expend a shield. And since they're already down a shield, they definitely don't want to do that, so they're going to burn some energy and throw their Bubble Beam here, revealing their second move. So Bubble Beam, Shadow Ball. The Jellicent has some energy left already, so I'm going to bring Gallade out and just throw the Leaf Blade right away. Because I knew they had farmed up a ton of energy before, and they shield. So I'm going to no shield here and let Gallade go down. I assume they're throwing this Bubble Beam as soon as they have it, so since they should be energy dry, I switch into Swampert and try to get this Hydro Cannon off before they reach their next Bubble Beam, but they get there, so I have to eat that, and that lowers my attack, which is not great because I'm switch locked here. So I'm just going to throw the Hydro Cannon, no reason to undercharge it because his switch timer is out. I would just end up leaving a Jellicent with some health left when I really don't need it to be alive. Ninetales comes out, and I am going to build up some extra energy. If I hadn't thrown that Hydro Cannon against the Jellicent right away and lost CMP on there, I would have been in a much better spot. It's not even that I lost CMP, it was a desynced CMP tie, so that was honestly terrible. Really good on my opponent to catch me at that time. I reach my next Earthquake. I'm going to have to shield here. If this Kingdra was not XL and I wasn't debuffed, then one Earthquake plus a Hydro Cannon would be like just barely enough to take it out. But unfortunately, as it was, I had to throw a second Earthquake, and I switch out to try to get something done with Gallade, but my opponent was just Powder Snowing. So they get to the Weather Ball, throw it against Swampert, and they manage to take me out. GG. Alright, next up against a Kite. Oh, I faced this guy in my last video, actually. So, Gallade into Swampert. Last time I faced a Kite, he caught a close combat. No. He switched out to Typhlosion, didn't catch, and I threw a close combat, which obviously was a mistake. I should have just swapped out to Swampert when he switches into Typhlosion. This time he catches a Leaf Blade, which is like, fine, alright. I don't know. He keeps making these catches against me. The Typhlosion is now running Shadow Claw. I could swear it was running Incinerate before. So maybe change that to not get as walled by Jellicent. But either way, I switch my Swampert in, and I get to the Hydro Cannon before he's able to reach a move, so take Typhlosion out, and Shadow Machamp comes in. And I was expecting the reason I didn't build up extra energy with Swampert was because I was anticipating his own Swampert would come back out, because I forgot what the backline was. Since Shadow Machamp came out, it would have served me a little bit better to build up some extra energy. But if Swampert had come back in, then not having taken the extra Shadow Claw damage would have enabled me to survive 2 Hydro Cannons. So that was my thought process for that. My opponent switches out and catches the Hydro Cannon on his Swampert. I switch into a Escavalier to catch a Hydro Cannon on a Escavalier. That doesn't make a ton of sense, to be honest. And I'm able to counter Swampert down. Shadow Machamp comes back out. I am just going to throw the Drill Run against it. And then just counter. I'm probably going to get farmed the whole way down, and honestly, that's fine. My opponent is out of shields and has so little health. At this point, all I really need are 2 confusions from Gallade, and I have 2 shields. So if I just squeeze a confusion in each time, or if he decides to throw one counter and let me get into confusion, then I can just, land my 2 confusions, and that's plenty to take Shadow Machamp down. And I managed to take that game. Felt like it wrapped up very cleanly there in the end. GG. Alright, next up against Rossbug. Gallade into Skarmory. This is obviously not a good matchup for Gallade. I like to switch out right away against Skarmory because even if they counter swap something and I lose switch, Gallade can probably come back in, farm down with Confusion, and have some energy and at least, throw a neutral hitting close combat against Skarm, which does pretty substantial damage. So I end up shielding the Sky Attack, which was what I wanted to do. I knew it was a Sky Attack. I just didn't want to take that damage. And my opponent brings in a Kingdra, and I'm going to go straight Earthquake there. He shields the first Earthquake, and that's fine. I'm almost at my second one. I can survive an Octazooka from here, so I'm not going to shield this. But my opponent throws the Outrage, and I go down. That's right, I'm going to bring Gallade back out and just try to reach these Leaf Blades and throw them as soon as I have them. This Leaf Blade will drop this Kingdra down into a range where I can pretty safely Confusion down. Throw here, and since I know my opponent's only going to be able to throw one move, so it makes sense he would just go straight Outrage. So I'm going to shield that. Good shield, but I have some energy. And now I'm just going to try to switch into a Scavalier pretty quickly when Skarmory comes back out, and it does. My opponent has a Swampert in the back, so that's kind of tough. A Scavalier can beat Swampert if it has an energy advantage in even shields, but it is not even shields. I'm down a shield. So I'm going to have to eat this Hydro Cannon. And I'm just going to try to get this next drill run out. I'm hoping to get a shield here. If I get a shield here, then I have a chance. If my opponent no shield and he recognizes that that's, you know, a win condition for me, then he can just bring in Skarmory and basically farm me down. If I can get this drill run and at least get the last shield, maybe I'd have something resembling play. But my Gallade didn't even have a move ready, so yeah, he just kind of Brave Birds me and takes me out. And yeah, that's a GG. That's tough. Skarmory can be kind of tough if the backline doesn't align right. I get a Regigigas, which is fine, I guess. I don't know. Regigigas is okay. Definitely gives me a second to sip my delicious coffee. Gonna claim that and go up to 2674. All right, next up against Giangles. Gallade into Politoed. So against the non-Shadow Politoed, I like to never shield against Politoed just because if I start shielding, then they can take it into the multi-shield, and since they outpace, it doesn't make any sense for me to do that. But my opponent actually switches out into Alolan Muck to try to catch something, and I built up a little bit more energy before I switch out to Swampert. I switch out there because here I can get to this Earthquake right as he's getting to his second Dark Pulse, so if he wants to shield, we can start doing that, but otherwise my opponent just lets himself down. Now Politoed's going to come back out, and I'm not quite in Weather Ball water range. This Politoed already has a decent chunk of energy, so I'm just going to no-shield here. This will make me pretty low, but not really in a convenient farm down range yet. I get to my Earthquake, and I am going to bait with the Hydro Cannon, because if I actually throw the Earthquake here, then he'll feel emboldened to actually farm all the way down, which would make Politoed very dangerous with it having that much energy. And then even though I have a Hydro Cannon ready, I don't throw, I just build up to the Earthquake to encourage him to throw his energy, because I really just don't want to end up in a position where I can get farmed down. My opponent swaps into Berserker, which is nuts to see in Ultra Premier. I'm just going to train my Escavalier on this and throw the drill run. My opponent decides to no shield, and this game is pretty much over. My opponent recognizes that and resigns the game. GG. All right. Next up against Kazarn. Shadow Snorlax. So that's pretty bad for Gallade. The lick damage does a lot. So I switch out right away. Because, again, much like against Skarmory, I'd rather lose swap if I have to, and then be able to farm down a little bit with Gallade so I can have energy to at least threaten Snorlax without having taken so much lick damage. My opponent brings his Kingdra out. I correctly shield the Outrage, which is fantastic. Build up to an Earthquake, and then I'm going to throw this Hydro Cannon. It's enough to KO, and yeah, if Snorlax comes back out, I'll be able to reach a Hydro Cannon, but I'm in Body Slam range. But he actually brings out a Toxicroak, which makes a lot of sense because you really don't want Toxicroak to be stuck against Gallade. It only takes like it takes like 3 or 4 confusions to take Toxicroak out, being double weak to Psychic like that, and Toxicroak isn't particularly thick. Let that go down and bring out Gallade. He swaps into Snorlax right away, and I'm just going to bring out a Scavalier. Switch advantage turned out to be very important in this match. So my opponent has plenty of shields, and I know he's going to start using shields for Snorlax, so I'm just going straight Drill Run, not bothering to even build up to Mega Horn to bait. Because Toxicroak is so low, all I'm going to need to do is throw 1 Confusion at it with Gallade, so really I just need to take out any number of these shields, do whatever damage I can with the Scavalier. If I can force these shields out, and if I get taken down, that's fine. Gallade comes out. I'm going to shield here because Toxicroak is energy drained. Shield the Body Slam. he switches into Toxicroak, which transfers 1 confusion. You can see how much it did, and then 1 more confusion is able to take him out. Snorlax comes back in, and now I have a Leaf Blade ready, so I just let that go and managed to take that game. GG. All right. Next up against Beru-sama. Gallade into Alola Ninetales. So, I've seen this matchup before. Alola Ninetales is honestly a very popular lead right now. I managed to sneak in a whole confusion, which is fantastic for me. I'm going to no-shield the first move. I always no-shield the first move, and it's pretty much never been the Gleam. So I'm going to throw this Leaf Blade, and now we have some lag, so I kind of lose track of counts. I am forced to shield here since I wasn't able to get out in time, but that's okay. I'm just going to throw this Leaf Blade here. I am built up to the close combat, so this could totally be. My opponent no shields, lets that go, and since I don't know the counts, I switch into a Escavalier. My opponent swaps out into Scrafty, which isn't really an Escavalier counter. I'm so much more awake now than I was in that first battle. So, I am just going to throw this Drill Run. Since Scrafty decided to use Power Up Punch, it really tells me that they are intending to keep Scrafty alive. So, managed to get that shield, and now I'm just going to throw this second Drill Run. He just barely went down, but honestly, I probably should have just thrown the 1 extra counter and gotten to the Mega Horn. That would have been a lot safer. I am either way able to reach this Mega Horn against the Kingdra that comes out. Managed to do a lot of damage, but not really that much, and I can just bring out Swampert and throw this Hydro Cannon before he's able to get to an Outrage. An Outrage wouldn't KO Swampert anyway, so this game is basically over, and yeah, Alola Ninetales comes back out, but has like no health, and I still have a shield left. So my team just, I don't know, he really just didn't have an answer for a Escavalier. That's really what it came down to. And I was able to leverage that into, getting good alignment and winning that game. So, Jellicent lead. This Jellicent is throwing Bubble, which isn't as bad as when it's throwing Hex, because Hex does charge up a little bit faster. Just going to, wait a minute, does it? I'm not sure. It definitely does less damage to Gallade. I'll have to look that up later. I should really have looked that up before. Thankfully, it's morning, so I have that as an excuse. So, yeah, this video is going really well. I'm going to throw this Leaf Blade against this Jellicent. Managed to get a second shield. So this tells me that they really, really don't want to see Gallade. Whatever's in the back must probably be weak against that, so I'm going to double shield. End up shielding a Shadow Ball. I don't throw the Leaf Blade right away, which turns out to be a good move because he switches into Alolan, or she switches into Alolan Muck, and that Alolan Muck is throwing Poison Jab. So Swampert Swampert resists the Poison Jab, and Poison Jab charges a lot slower than Snarl does, so I'm able to build up a little bit of extra energy before I throw this Earthquake and manage to take Alolan Muck out. Now I have some leftover energy, but I'm expecting Jellicent to come back in, and I'm probably not going to be able to reach a second Earthquake because that's asking a lot. So they reach the next Shadow Ball and take me out, but now Jellicent is kind of energy drained. Either way, I'm going to throw this Leaf Blade right away because I really want to take this Jellicent out. And there is a Galvantula in the back, so that's fine. I'm going to build up to 3 and try to throw the close combat. My opponent was throwing their move right away, which makes a lot of sense. Galvantula does win CMP. They throw a Cross Poison, which, alright, cool. So, Escavalier will definitely survive anything that Galvantula throws. The Discharge wouldn't do that much. It throws a Lunge, which I resist, and I'm just going to build up 2 and throw the Mega Horn. Mega Horn and Drill Run both hit for neutral, and I want to throw the harder hitting move because I think after being debuffed once, I don't think the Drill Run would have KO'd. And I really don't want to be in a position where I have to counter Galvantula down as I get debuffed. So, alright, next up against Binskaten. Gallade into Empoleon. So this is, oh my gosh, this is not Empoleon Double Dragon, this is Empoleon Double Charm, which is unusual because, like, what do you do against Venusaur? Switching to a Escavalier right away, if I had more time to think and react upon the instant switch out of a neutral matchup, because Gallade into Empoleon is a neutral match, upon instantly seeing them switch out to Clefable, I would have preferred To switch out to Swampert, just because I know that the other fairy in the back will almost definitely end up being Alolan Ninetales, which has an okay matchup against Swampert, but a pretty bad matchup against a Escavalier. But yeah, I managed to take the Clefable down because the Escavalier does win that in the ones anyway, and I have some extra energy, but not quite enough to reach the Drill Run. Really needed to get that Drill Run off. And now I make an unusual decision of bringing Gallade back in. And the reason that I'm doing this is because I'm trying to throw this Leaf Blade and get the last shield. Bringing Gallade in would imply that that's my best answer to Alolan Ninetales. So, you know, that would kind of encourage them to shield the Leaf Blade, which is the thing that would hurt Alolan Ninetales the least. The Hydro Cannons would hurt Alolan Ninetales more, and Alolan Ninetales is the problem. So I built up to the Earthquake, or I built up to way past the Earthquake before throwing that against Empoleon. I thought this would be enough to reach double Hydro Cannon or to reach the Earthquake. The Earthquake is really what I need, but I'm not going to make it. So I end up having to throw this Hydro Cannon here, and the Charm that snuck through. If I had thrown one Mud Shot, that Charm would have KO'd me anyway, and I'm still not quite able to reach the Leaf Blade, so I don't know, maybe it would have been better to just send Swampert out. But, like, that was my mindset on why I made that decision, just so you can kind of understand where it went wrong in that game. I really needed to charge up a little bit more energy with Swampert before taking out Empoleon. But that's okay. It was a close match. Still a tremendous positive set. 4 out of 5. I go up to 27-14. And yeah, so starting this next set up against Dunebug. So starting to see the big names, so I'm definitely getting up there. Who's also opening Gallade. Gallade, by the way, a fantastic lead. I'm going to throw this Leaf Blade at 5. It's where I would need to throw before I start doubling up. My Gallade does not have amazing IVs. It's ranked like 145, I think. So I win CMP against a lot of other Gallades. Throw one more Confusion, and then I throw this Leaf Blade also. I have 1 CMP on both of these, so if he wants to throw his last shield, that's fine. But he lets it go down. And yeah, he's got a shiny Swampert in the back. At 5 Mud Shots, he throws his Hydro Cannon. Let Gallade go down. I don't want to shield there because Swampert will outpace. I bring in my own shiny Swampert, so we move from the Gallade mirror to the shiny Swampert mirror. So I am just going to absorb this Hydro Cannon. Because my Swampert has pretty good IVs, I'll be able to survive 2 Hydro Cannons, but his Swampert has taken two Confusions of damage, so he will not be able to survive 2. Gonna shield here, and then throw my own Hydro Cannon. I get a shield off this Swampert, and I'm going to continue to build up, try to get to my next Hydro Cannon, but I'm going to lose CMP anyway. So I went from winning the Gallade matchup to losing the Swampert matchup, and yeah, I'm going to just bring a Escavalier out. Swampert's not going to be able to get to another move, and it's a Venusaur in the back, which is kind of surprising that he would have shielded the Swampert if he had Venusaur back there. I mean, Venusaur would demolish Swampert. If I had been Dunebug, I would have just let it down and let Venusaur come out for a farm. But that's not the decision that he made, and that's all right. Thankfully, I have an Escavalier in the back, which does a pretty good job walling Venusaur's energy. I don't think the Swampert in the back would be able to reach a Hydro Cannon, but since I'm pretty low anyway, I'm just going to farm Venusaur down so that I have a move ready. And yeah, Swampert comes out. I'm just going to throw the Mega Horn right off the bat and manage to take it out. GG. Boy, it looks so orange when the sun is out. The sun ruins my white balance. That's why I'm so orange right now. All right, next up against Wanko Wanyo. Opening Shadow Machamp. Shadow Machamp used to be a pretty popular opening, and then it stopped for a while. I miss seeing it as a person who opens with Gallade. So my opponent swaps into Stunfisk, and I just no-shield the Rock Slide. Even if it was an Earthquake, it wouldn't quite take me out. It would just do tremendous, tremendous damage, but he would end up having to throw another move anyway. And he's throwing here, so this is obviously another Rock Slide. I'm going to let this go also, and yeah, I'm just going to counter the rest of the way down. I'm one counter away from a drill run, so if Shadow Machamp comes back out, I'll be able to reach that. And it does. He sneaks in a counter, which is fine. That just means I'm gonna be able to do one counter less of damage, but it doesn't really amount to that much since the confusions from Gallade will be taking him out anyway. And yeah, Wanko switches into Jellicent. So, being that I have like 1 or 2 confusions as a lead, this matchup is quite decent. Jellicent in the lead is pretty up in the air, but here I can just double shield, and even if I end up getting double baited with Bubble Beam, it's not really that bad. Just going to continue to throw 2 confusions before throwing a move. If I throw 1 confusion, then they get in 2 hexes. But if I throw 2 confusions, they get in 3. So it's just not as bad of a deal. They're getting 33% more fast moves instead of 50% more. So, shield again, and this time it was a Shadow Ball. That's great. I throw only 1 confusion like a fool, and throw this Leaf Blade just because I don't want to get debuffed or something if they, were that close to a Bubble Beam. I'm almost able to take Jellicent out, and the Bubble Beam lands and manages to take me down. Swampert comes out, and from here I'm just going to Mudshot the whole way down. I end up having to eat a Shadow Ball, which does a lot, but I'll survive it. And Shadow Machamp comes out, and I'm not quite in Cross Chop range yet. So I survived that Cross Chop, and this was a CMP tie that I lost. So I'm going to throw this Hydro Cannon. This Hydro Cannon is going to take Shadow Machamp out, and now I just need to Mudshot the Jellicent down before I take too much damage from the hexes. Just barely managed to take that game. GG. Alright, next up against someone whose name I can't quite pronounce because there's a lot of numbers in there. So, Gallade into Politoed. They switch out right away to Ninetales. I'm going to throw 2 confusions before swapping out to a Scavalier, because I don't really have to worry too much about Ninetales' energy, so, me having 2 confusions will definitely help against Politoed. I take the Dazzling Gleam, which is the heavy-hitting move, and it does pretty substantial damage even though it's resisted. I'm going to throw the Drill Run, and then counter the rest of the way down. They're able to get to another move, and this could, I think, have been the Gleam, or I miscounted and it wasn't because it turned out to just be the Weather Ball, so I end up dropping a shield there. And there's a Talonflame in the back, so that's rough for a Scavalier. And this Talonflame is going to have 2 Incinerates of energy already, so it's already really close to a Brave Bird. I'm torn here because if this is a bait, it's going to be really bad for me. But I ended up correctly shielding the Brave Bird, and that's fine. They switch out to Politoed. I build up a little bit more energy before I switch out. I throw 1 confusion and then throw my Leaf Blade right away. I probably should have thrown 2 confusions so that maybe they would forget how much energy I had. That would have been better. Able to get most of this confusion in, and I'm going to survive whatever this is. Just a Weather Ball. My opponent is going straight Weather Ball. That's fine. I throw 1 extra confusion so that I can fast move deny. And then I throw this Leaf Blade. I really need my opponent to shield these, actually. If they had let Politoed go down and come back out with Talonflame, that would have been very difficult because they would have gotten a bunch of farm and been able to throw the Brave Bird plus a... what's it called? A Flame Charge plus a Brave Bird at Swampert, which would have been plenty to take him down. My opponent switches out to try to catch the Earthquake. Doesn't quite happen, and I'm just going to throw this Hydro Cannon, take Talonflame out. And now I'm only 1 Mudshot away from my Earthquake. I get there. So I'm able to Earthquake this Politoed, and I'm able to take this game too. GG. That was tough. I had to go down 2 shields there against Talonflame. It was dangerous. Alright, next up against Dizzy Diesel. Gallade into Shadow Snorlax. Shadow Snorlax, terrible for me. I like to swap out right away to Swampert. I'm not going to throw the Hydro Cannon right off the bat in case they decide to switch out to try to catch, and they do. They switch out to their Kingdra. So I'm just going to go straight Earthquake after building a little bit past it. They let it go. That's fantastic. Based on how much damage that did, I think this is an XL Kingdra. So I'm going to no-shield here. And if it is the Octazooka, and it is, then I survive it. And I also don't get the attack drop, which is fantastic. So I'm just going to throw this Hydro Cannon. I get a shield. That's great. Now I'm going to throw this next Hydro Cannon. I should have maybe built up to 1 extra just so that I could fast move deny, because he definitely snuck in an extra what's it called, an extra Dragon Breath there, which meant that we didn't get the Simul KO, and I instead get to come out with Gallade and get one Confusion in. There is a Clefable back there, so I don't really even need Gallade. I just need a Scavalier. So it's a good thing I saved 2 shields for a Scav here. I'm going to go straight Mega Horn against this Shadow Lax because I figure they're probably going to want to save their shield for their Charmer. That's the normal thing that happens. And yeah, I just need to be able to get to double Drill Run to get this Clefable down into Confusion plus Leaf Blade range. So I get a shield with the first Drill Run. That's fine. And I throw my next Drill Run right before I am going to go down. Was just trying to get things aligned so that I can get every counter possible in. It's just good practice to always try to fast move deny and get your moves in effectively. I sneak into Confusion when my opponent is throwing a move. I don't know if they should have thrown anything at all, but it doesn't really make a difference because I would only need 3 Confusions to get to a Leaf Blade, even if I came in Energy Dry. Gallade is pretty bad against Charmers, but he's not that bad against Charmers. And now we have some nice lag at the very end of the game, but I'm able to Leaf Blade this Clefable, and yeah, managed to take that W. All right. Next up against Q-Vol. Gallade into Galvantula. So this is okay. If I can sneak into Confusion, it makes it a lot better. My opponent does not throw right away at 3, so he's able to fast move deny. I'm going to shield this lunge, throw 1 Confusion, and then throw my Leaf Blade. I don't have any kind of like energy advantage here, so I switch out into Swampert to try to catch a lunge instead, which is like a questionable decision. Could definitely have just, you know, taken the lunge and tried to sneak into Confusion. I think that probably would have been better in retrospect. My opponent brings him a Champ out, which is not really that big of a deal. I'm just going to throw this Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon will not KO from this range, so that's why I'm building up to the Earthquake. And since I got a shield there, I'm going to build up to and throw the Earthquake now. It does tremendous damage, but since this is a non-Shadow Machamp, it will survive just barely. And I get countered the rest of the way down. I'm going to bring out Gallade, and I'm going to no shield here. This is just a Cross Chop, which doesn't do that much damage. Gallade resists both Cross Chop and Rock Slide. I throw 1 Confusion and take that out. And I was instantly throwing a Leaf Blade, and there's a Talonflame back there, so that's a problem, because I don't have that much left. I throw 2 Confusions, and I probably should have actually switched out right here and transferred that damage onto a Scavalier, so that I at least be able to throw 1 Confusion and then the Close Combat. But don't quite get there. I'm going to throw this Drill Run here, which really doesn't matter. It would hit for not very effective single resisted damage, which wouldn't even take him out. And I go down there, and yeah, Talonflame has a Flame Charge already stored, so manages to take me out no problem. That was a rough thing to find in the back. But, all right. But yeah, still managed to go 4 out of 5, so still pretty good. I get a Mienfoo, which is fine. I don't know if Mind Shao is any good for anything. But I don't have one yet, so I definitely need that candy for the Dex. And yeah, go up to 2757. My gosh, it is time to wake up again. And yeah, I get some clothes and I get some stuff. And yeah, that's last video. I'm gonna go get dressed and go to work. I will see you guys on the next video.